Why does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
I basically articulated my particular mission, which is to try to be a teacher to influence brothers and sisters, younger brothers and sisters coming up in the black organizations to think like we think. And I know a lot of y'all think that that's completely impossible. A lot of people think that. But I'm wondering what you think about that particular, because I haven't spent time in organizations and knowing the mentality and knowing the whole, basically slave, master, slave mentality. Do you think it's a viable use of energy to attempt to influence younger brothers and sisters that are coming up in, let's say, whatever organization that is out there that I may have contact with people? Do you think it's a viable use of your energy to try to get them to think the way we think, which is gear yourself towards infrastructure? Because the way I look at it is, I use war history sometimes because I'm a big-time military historian. In World War II, the person that they constantly give you is this George Patton character. And they said George Patton did this, and he was this flamboyant cowboy, and he rode into Germany and all this other stuff. But what they never do is give credit to those generals who sacrificed being on the battlefield to train the men that would help Patton to drive into Germany. That's my passion. My passion is I believe in everything that all of us are talking about today on this radio show. I just believe we need more people thinking like us. So I guess I'm looking for your opinion.
Not only is it viable, it's crucial. We have to. That's part of to me. That's part of the infrastructure that I talk about. You know what? I'm going to give you a personal story, and this personal story is going to answer this question directly. I'm not going to take a lot of time, but just to give you some personal history about who I am and what I've been through.
Sure.
Back when I was in my teens and when I was in my 20s, me and my cousin and my nephew and a few of my friends, we used to go to Bushwick Avenue in Brooklyn, where when Dr. York was in his heyday in Brooklyn, where the Ansar Law community was there.
Right.
We used to go to the Nation of Islam meetings. So we're talking about the Lost Found Nation, the Nation under Farrakhan. We used to hear the Five Percenters. We used to hear the Hebrew Israelites. And in the process, this is when, as you're young, you're trying to get all this information in, soak it in, and try to find out what's the truth.
Right.
And in the process of doing this, we discovered something. This just being young and being naive, we said, wait a minute. How is it that when you look at all of these doctrines, and I'm talking about these religious organizations specifically, when you look at their doctrines, all of them seem to agree on who the enemy is.
Right.
Now, how the enemy was created and how this happened, they all have their variations of all of that. But the bottom line is, all of them tend to say that this guy that we've been having all these problems with is the problem, and we don't need to be dealing with him. So us as young people and being naive, we said, well, if that's the case, that's the common denominator amongst these groups. Why aren't these groups in communication with each other? Why aren't they working together to try to do something to fight against this enemy that they say is the enemy of our people? And then, you already know where I'm going with this.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Because by doing that, by naively thinking that, they ended up educating me much more than I ever intended to be educated. Because what I discovered is, a lot of people still to this day, and God bless them, I love them, they got good hearts. They honestly think that these organizations are for the good of our people. And I'm sorry, I hate to burst people's bubble, but they are not. The game that's going on in these religious organizations is no different than what's going on in the streets with people selling drugs and carving up the community for their own little control. Everybody has their little hustle going on, and they don't want to get together on any level. What they want to do is, if you got your hustle over here, I'm going to leave you alone. Just let me get my hustle on over here, and we're going to operate and carve this community up and get as many people as be a part of these organizations, and we can all live and we can all eat. And that's it. So if anybody is looking to these religious organizations or these whatever organizations thinking that that's the key to our empowerment, you are very disillusioned.
Right.
You are disillusioned.
Yes, sir, without a doubt.
Because that's not what they're there for. Those organizations are there to maintain themselves. Now, keep in mind, I don't attack them. I don't believe in attacking them. But what I will say is I don't think that I'm out of line in calling it like it is.
No, without a doubt.
Because I'm using where we are at right now as my proof. You mean to tell me that if the white man is the devil, which is what everybody seems to be on the same page with, you mean to tell me that you can't get together amongst God?
Mm-hmm.
What's the problem?
Yes, sir.
You know who your enemy is, and you got these people who are suffering socially, economically, politically. The police out here killing us wholesale. And nobody, at no point, did any of these groups say, you know what, let me sit down. If I'm with the 5% Nation, let me sit down with this brother from the Hebrew Israelites. We need to get together and control this community and protect our people.
Right.
Nobody came to that conclusion.
Right.
So my thing is, I don't believe that Mr. Holipsism is so brilliant that I just got up in the morning and came up with this by myself. I believe that this energy out there that I've been putting out has been out there, but I think that there's been a calculated effort to squash it out and keep the community the exact same way that it is. So when we start talking about looking to these organizations, that's the problem right there. That's the problem. I don't care about these organizations. I care about as much about these organizations as they care about me.
Right.
But what I do care about is because this to show you the hypocrisy of it. Let's say you're a black man in America. You can go and join the Nation of Islam, stay with them for a year, quit them, go become an Hebrew Israelite, stay with them for a year, quit them, become a Moor, stay with them for a year, quit them, become a 5%er. You can go through all of these groups, and nobody asks you for no DNA test to find out whether you're a Hebrew Israelite. You know what I'm saying? Whether you were Moor.
That's true.
They will take you and they will accept you as a part of their membership. Why? Because you're going to give them your energy and you're going to give them your time and you're going to give them your resources. So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And if we're going to change that, we got to have an infrastructure where we teach our children practical knowledge. Because my thing is, science and mathematics and physics and stuff like that gives you practical skills. Things that you can, and this is to build on what you were talking about, you can take those skills and you can go somewhere and you can be self-sufficient. And this is the one thing that these organizations do not want us to be. And that's the reason why you came to that conclusion. And I applaud you for it, because that says a lot about you. Because a lot of people don't come to that conclusion. They go along and just follow and accept whatever these groups put down as being what it is, and never come to the conclusion like, wait a minute, I'm still broke. I've been with this organization for 20 years. The person who's leading the organization is doing pretty good, but I'm broke.
Right. Yep. Yep.
It's not about self-sufficiency. But when you have a nation, first of all, there's that separation of church and state, so you don't even have to worry about this religious stuff, because it's not about that. It's about the infrastructure, and it's about the people in the community. Everybody, when I look at my people, I don't look at them as Hebrew Israelites. I don't look at them as Muslims. I don't look at them as Christians. I don't look at them as atheists. I look at them as Black African people, all existing under the same umbrella.
Right.
So what do I want for them? I want my Muslim brother to be walking down the street and not have to worry about being shot. I want my Hebrew Israelite brother to be walking down the street and not have to worry about being shot. I look at my people like we are, as a global people.
Right.
And we got to have the conversation and build around that concept.
Absolutely, brother. And I might add to that, my father, because, I just like you, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. And my father had a locksmith shop on Fulton Street for 22 years. And I can remember, because my mom and my pop split up when I was 8 years old, so I lived with my mom And my mom worked at a bank or whatever, so I had to deal with, that side of commerce or whatever. My mom did what she could do, and she was pretty successful in the bank. But when I used to come to your side of Brooklyn, because I'm from Coney Island, when I used to come to your side of Brooklyn and stay with my father would take me around in the car, and he would say, you see those projects over there? I put, locks in there, and you see those projects over there? I put, a buzzer system in there. And it started sinking into my head. He said, listen, son, he said, you want to be able to be dropped in Russia, Germany, China, or whatever, and have the ability to make money. All you need, you may not know the language, but you know that you have a service that they need, and they can use you. You can make money. You can deal with them because you have a skill, because skill is a universal language.
Right.
And that particular idea, as I grew older and hit the streets and, played around for a little while, was dormant. But once I started struggling with the economic side of my life, my spiritual life was fine. You know what I'm saying? I got off drugs, I got off the streets and stuff like that. But once I started struggling with the economic side of my life, that seed began to grow and it came up again. And I realized, what am I doing here? Why am I working fast food and just giving to the organization? Why don't I try to invest in something that is universal so I know? Because, listen, brother, and I posted this on my page the other day. Somebody had some kind of picture, and I'm going to bring Brother Earl in a second. Somebody had a picture, and it was two General Motors keys. And I looked at the picture, and I could tell the people, this one is an ignition key. The cuts on this key is 44222321. This is a door key, and the cuts on this is 2231, whatever. That's my skill. I could look at that across the street and tell you these are the keys. Like I could look inside your car. If you lost your car and you left your keys on the seat, I can literally look through your window, read the cuts, go to my code machine and make a cut, get into your car. And that's not something that is inhibited by language, religion,
right.
politics, or culture. And to
right.
me, that's why me, you, Collar, Chef Rob, and Brother Earl connect, because we're speaking a language that is universal, that has not a damn thing to do with no religion,
right.
has nothing to do with no organization or culture. We understand that we as a people have, and some of us, not all of us, but some of us have fought for that which I was just talking about, and we're doing it for somebody who don't give two craps about us.
Right. And I just want to add on to that and say this and ask, a question to everybody who's listening on the radio and the brothers on the panel. When you look at that Black African child being born out of the womb, do you say to yourself, I really want that child to be a Hebrew Israelite? I want this child to be a Muslim. I want this child to be a 5%. Or do you say, I want this child to be a mathematician. I want him to be an engineer. I want him to be a scientist. These are the questions that you got to ask yourself, because we're dealing with a lot of things that, like I said, are irrelevant to the discussion, and we're giving groups more power than they and more bite than they actually deserve. Because in my world, what your religion is your business. If we
right.
teach our children the STEM fields, and let's say one of those kids becomes like a top leading scientist, but he decides that spiritually he's a Muslim, fine. That's his decision. That's her decision.
Right.
That's nothing
right.
to do with the government, nothing to do with the nation. That's a personal decision that you make. If you want to go and learn about Islam, learn about it. Nobody's stopping you. You should be allowed
right.
to do that. But the nation is not concerned with that. The nation is concerned with the welfare of the people inside of the nation. Food,
yes,
clothing, shelter, protection.
Right.
I want to be able to exist in an environment where I don't have to walk down the street and have to watch every little thing that I do to make sure that I'm not offending somebody so that I don't get shot.
Right. right.
And that's all I got to say for now.
And I'm with it. Brother, listen, I should have met you a long time ago. That very same thing that you said, I said on my show. I forget which one it was, but I said it in a different way.
Right.
If you can remember when we were younger going to school, and they used to have, remember when we were younger, they used to go to school and they had come up in front of class and say, my father, my mother does this for a living?
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I said this on my show, it was a couple of shows ago. I said, most of y'all would like your child to say, my daddy's a Moor, my daddy's
right.
a Muslim, my daddy's a Christian. I said, and that's sorry, because if I was a teacher, I would say, is your daddy a Moor when you're hungry and broke? Is your daddy a Christian when you're... I said the same exact thing. I just got finished saying that on the show.
Yeah.
I said, what I would like you to say is my daddy is an engineer in the Moorish Science Temple. My daddy is a electrician in the Nation of Islam. And to me, that's the way my father taught me to think. I'm proud of being in the nation. I'm proud of everything I've done in it, and I will stay and continue. I believe that that's how I make a difference. However, I would use the teaching because I was a captain, I was a lieutenant, I know how to train men, and my wife knows how to train women. We would use that teaching differently today. We would use that training in order to train brothers and sisters to acquire that particular skill so that they could, they could become that engineer in the nation. They could become that scientist, that kind of thing. To me, that's what is missing.